Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shauna Lee, the place where you will be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another interview episode. Today, I am going to introduce you to Kelly Mabry, who is a new friend of mine. I have met her actually through my co-host on my other podcast, Jamie, and we're going to jump in today. Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
I am super excited to meet you and to talk with you today, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So the way I like to kick this off typically is to ask you to give a brief little intro, kind of who you are, where you're coming from, what you do, but specifically, how have you embraced this idea of starting again?
All right. Well, like I said, my name is Kelly, and born in and grew up in Austin, Texas area. So a real Texan here.
Yes, same.
I
We're a rare
say
breed.
rare breed, very proud of it. I am a teacher and so an educator, and specifically dance educator, which is kind of neat. I teach dance
Mhm.
full time at a high school level. I am a mother of two daughters and I have a blended family. So I also have a stepdaughter and a stepson. And I just, I guess if you're asking how I embrace starting again,
Mhm.
it was a long process. I never pictured myself as being someone who would be divorced when I got married the first time and wanted to be married forever. And so when my marriage didn't work out, that was that was really hard to accept.
Sure.
Also, I like to do things right. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like to make mistakes. I don't like to get it wrong. I pride myself on doing things right. So to have a marriage fail was a slap in the face.
Yeah.
But I would say that how I've worked through it and navigated through it is just really owning it, that it was something that didn't work out and that that's okay.
Mhm.
And I grew from it. And now I've actually healed. So I've healed from it.
Yes.
That's how I've embraced that.
Yes. Yes. Well, and it's a common story, the starting again after divorce. One that I focus on heavily in my business, but I love to see examples of women kind of coming back, the phoenix from the ashes and kind of coming back
Hmm.
bigger and better and stronger than you were before. The whole healing process is key.
Yes, it is. And my mother was divorced and never really healed from it. Even now, my dad left when I was 8, my sister was 3, and my mom still today, and I won't tell you how old I am now, but
Yes.
it's I'm very, seasoned. But even now, I would say she hasn't fully healed from it.
Yeah.
And so I knew that that was something I needed. I could not carry baggage with me forever.
For sure, for sure. And so when you look back at your story, what inspires you most about your story specifically?
Oh, wow. Inspires me.
Hmm.
I would say absolutely the way that I prioritized myself. I don't think women really prioritize themselves,
Yes.
which kind of led to the demise of my marriage for the first time around. And knowing that that's not selfish, that that's something important. And I'm raising two daughters, and
Yep.
I want them to be able to know it is okay to take care of this yourself and the things that you need. Really
Absolutely.
knowing what those are, and figuring out what those are. My dad told me one time, a long time ago, that he made all of his mistakes in his 20s and that the rest of his life he was fixing those mistakes. And
Oh,
I thought
wow.
that was so right. I thought it was bizarre. I thought, oh, Dad, that's crazy. I am telling you, I made all of my mistakes in my 20s. And I think it's because I didn't know who I really was
Yeah.
and I didn't know what I really needed. And once I figured those things out and was able to prioritize those in a healthy, balanced way, not a selfish way, but a very insightful way, it has made all the difference in my life.
Absolutely. Well, and it's true. In your 20s, you're still discovering who you are and what's important. And
Hmm.
we can't advocate for ourselves if we don't even know what we want. And that's the biggest part of
Exactly.
it, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
So true. So true.
So, as you look back on your journey, what do you think is the common theme in your lessons along your life?
Going back to all my lessons in life, I would say that my common theme is, oh man, a theme. I have really high expectations, which has been both very something that's pushed me to excel in my career and in my relationships, but also been something that has been hard to balance. And I think having high expectations for myself, high expectations for those around me and how they treat me, um, and knowing when to chip the edges off of those and make it
Mhm.
more uh, something that you can actually live and do. Let me say that with my first relationship, again being young, not knowing what I needed, I really loved the man. I mean, I loved my first husband so much, and just threw myself into that relationship. Was willing to do whatever I needed to make him happy. I loved him, the father of my children.
Mhm.
I didn't love who I was with him,
Oh, interesting.
because I couldn't be who I am today with him and then him be happy. And so I had this expectation of what I wanted this relationship to be. It was never going to be that, because I couldn't be myself.
Hmm.
Now I that relationship dissolved. I healed. I figured a lot of things out on my own. I was introduced to the husband I'm married to now, and that was a process, because I was not interested in falling in love again. But that's a
Oh,
whole different story.
yes, it is a whole different story. Like
It's a
getting
whole different
your
story.
heart ready to love again is a whole thing.
Oh yeah, you talk about starting again, like
Hmm.
opening yourself up to that.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Yep.
But when I met him, I loved him and I love him so much, but I love me when I'm with him. And
Oh,
I love who we are together. And
yes.
that expectation, knowing that I had that expectation back then, but I didn't have the skills to make it happen.
Hmm.
I didn't have to get rid of that. I just had to learn to love through it. And so
Hmm.
that's been a common theme of who Kelly is, and all of the things that I've done,
Yeah,
and figuring out how to make that a healthy reality for myself and those around me.
I love that. So, when you think back to the younger you, what advice would you
Mm.
give her?
Okay,
Okay.
I've got this. I have got this. Kelly, as a young kid, like I said, I like to do everything right.
Hmm.
And I had this fairy tale vision of life, what life was going to be, and it was a straight path. We were going to do X, Y, Z to get to the rocking chairs on the porch and forever.
Yes.
What I would tell that Kelly is that life is not a straight journey. It
Mm.
is windy and curvy, and sometimes there's going to be a detour, and sometimes you might even figure out you're on the wrong path. You
Yep.
didn't read the GPS right. You
Yeah.
got to jump to another one.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to pause and take a break because you're exhausted, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not wrong. It doesn't mean you've messed up,
Yeah.
because it's not about getting to Z, it's about the journey and the memories made and the lessons learned
Hmm.
that gets you to Z.
Yeah.
So that is what I would tell myself. I wish I'd known that, because I would have taken a lot of stress off myself for many
Oh,
years.
for sure. My I think mine I keep coming back to even now. My advice is just relax already.
Yes, relax.
Just
That's
relax.
true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, so what do you now believe is possible for your own life that you didn't know was true before?
I would say, I mentioned it before, but healing and forgiving yourself, and these mistakes that we make, or these things we've been through, they don't haunt you forever. They
Yes.
become these golden nuggets of truth that you build on and make your next relationship better. So it's not a regret. It's not something that I look back at and think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. It is that event helped me have the life I have today. And I could say that because I'm here today.
Yeah.
That's hard to think of when you're going through it.
Oh, for sure.
But I had a lot of guilt and a lot of um, shame. Shame, a good word,
Hmm.
just because the marriage failed.
Yep.
And I have let go of that, and I've really healed from that. So just, it is possible, and it can happen to anyone. And if you're going through it right now and you're in a dark place, that doesn't last. That is a phase you're going through,
Yep.
and it is brighter on the other side,
Yeah.
and you will get there.
Oh, 100%. I often come back to this mantra for my own life, and it's this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And I think in the very beginning, when I started really kind of telling myself this statement, it was when my kids were little and we were in like the throes of raising babies is so
Mm-hmm.
hard. And you have just, I keep coming back to also the days are long, but the years are short. And there are just some days that you're just struggling to get through. And I just would remind myself, this too shall pass. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that, yes, you're going to get through it, but also for me, it was a good way and a good reminder to appreciate where I am, because it won't last forever. This little baby
Yeah.
phase or whatever dark place, you're in, it won't last forever, but
No, that's so true.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about your life now. And I have two kind of ad hoc questions here. So one is, um, what does your life look like today?
Great. Well, I'm extremely happy today. And like you said, things don't last. So I
Mhm.
know
Yes.
I'm going to celebrate being happy today. I am an empty nester. So my husband and I got married 8 years ago.
Hmm.
And that was exciting because at that time we had 4 kids in the house, all ranging from the ages of 12 to 16.
Oh, wow.
And we went through all the teenage years together. Um, but we have successfully launched 4 children into the world.
That's
So
amazing.
my
Congratulations.
yes, thank you, thank you. This is our first year to actually truly be an empty nester. So we are living it up. There are days where we just eat wine and cheese for dinner and watch TV, and nobody gets upset that I haven't cooked.
Yes.
Um, it's just a great time, great place to be. I am a teacher, like I said, an educator, so I take a lot of pride in my career because I've been doing it long enough to where I feel like I have a positive reputation doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
My husband's career is taking off, and he's closer to retirement than I am, so he's kind of looking at that phase, and we're looking at next steps.
Yeah.
So life is good in this moment.
That's awesome.
Everybody's healthy, happy. My parents are still alive. They live nearby, and they're very healthy and happy. And my dad remarried, and I'm super close to my stepmom, and so she's very active role in my life. And my stepmom and my mom are friends, and
Oh, that's
we're
awesome.
we're in a good spot.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I love it.
I'm very blessed.
And what was my second question I had for you? Oh, I wanted to go back to, you talked a lot about your healing journey. What do you
Yeah.
think, if you had to give a couple tips, or, what was it that helped you with that healing process the most?
I think having a well, one of the things I struggled with, and I'll say this because maybe someone listening it's happening to her. When I went through my divorce, I lost my support network.
Mm,
So our friends were split, and I had moved to be closer to his family. And so I wasn't close to my family, and I was very alone.
mm-hmm.
And that was hard. I would say the number one thing is get a support network of friends that know you like the real you,
Yeah.
the you were before you got married,
Mm-hmm.
and the you are now, and lean on them. Don't be embarrassed to share your journey with them. Don't be embarrassed to call when you're having those low moments because they know who you are and they'll remind you of who you are in your
Yes.
lowest of low moments. I prayed a lot and really struggled through my faith because again, I'm that perfectionist. I had done all these things right, quote unquote,
Yep.
to when I married my first husband, and I felt like God would bless me because I had done those things right.
Right.
And so, as a Christian, I had to reformat my mind on that's not how life works.
Yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to do the things that are right, but that doesn't ensure that your journey is going to be perfect. And
Correct.
I had to struggle through that, so I leaned into that. Um, but your faith, your support network, and um, taking it one day at a time. Don't worry about what the holiday is going to look like now.
Oh my
Don't worry
gosh.
about
Yes.
right. Don't worry about oh gosh those traditions are gone or I'll never be able to go back to that restaurant or yes you will or you'll find a better restaurant.
Yes.
And my first Christmas, I took the kids to Disney World. I was like, I'm not sitting here in the house alone, sad. We're going to Disney World, and then they can come back and they can go to their dad's house. And um, I'm not gonna lie, I cried at Disney World,
Yeah.
but it was very short.
Yeah.
It was a short cry, and we ate pretzels and we moved on.
Yes.
But right? Just change it up. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of
Yeah,
what tomorrow will hold, because
that's one of the things I say in my book is this phase after divorce is an opportunity to create what your life will look like, which means you get to create new traditions. And the
that's right.
holidays is a great example because those are tough. The first holidays after a divorce, especially when your support network has dwindled. Like I'm
Yes.
always amazed. I've been divorced 3 times, by the way. So I am
Uh-huh.
always
Uh-huh.
amazed after divorce which friends stick around and which ones I lose. Like each time I've gone through this process. And my people, I know who my people are at this point in my life because they have
Right.
stayed and they have stayed.
Yes.
But yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
always surprising when you lose some of those friends, even when it isn't they chose him and
Right.
felt, because that obviously happens. But there are some that you just kind of dwindle away. They just kind of fade away after divorce for
Yes.
no real reason. And those I think are
Mm-hmm.
the harder ones to kind of deal with. But yes, when your
I
support
agree
network
with that.
has dwindled and then you're left with fewer people, those first holidays are really hard. I love that you went to Disney World.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, we had to do something because it was I don't like pity parties.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if our common friend Jamie mentioned this, but I don't like to sit and dwell because I don't like to not do things right. So I'm like, I'm not sitting here crying and feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
No, we are doing something else.
Yeah.
We are changing it up.
I love it.
Going back to what you just said about your support network, one thing, because I circled back to those friends after I'd healed and moved on
Hmm.
several years later,
Hmm.
I went back and said, why did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't they chose him. They just didn't choose me. And
Yeah.
what happened? And I had one friend who was honest and said, you were different. You didn't reach out. You didn't come to events. You isolated yourself.
Oh,
And I had to own that because that's true in some
sure.
things. Like if I thought I was going to see him, I wouldn't go to those events. Or if everybody was going to be coupled up and I was going to be alone, I
Yeah.
would choose not to go.
Yeah.
And so that's another little piece of advice on you do have to keep putting yourself out there, and don't assume that they're not talking to you just because you're divorced. Sometimes there's other things, but
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting. And I love that you did that. You circled back to ask what happened.
Hmm.
I do know that when I've had those conversations in my life, it's never what I thought it was about. And almost never is it
Exactly.
actually about me. But
Right.
but that's interesting that she said you had changed. And that whole
Yeah.
isolation that's what everyone does. You go through this
Yes.
protective, go back in your shell a little bit to protect yourself.
Yep.
But interesting.
Yeah, you take cover, you
Yeah.
try to stop the bleeding, you
Yeah.
take care of it, and most of the time you start prioritizing yourself again, and sometimes that also makes people uncomfortable because they don't. So
Well, I
yeah,
have
it's
noticed that a lot when it's kind of triggering for someone, right? If you are starting to do
mm-hmm.
something for yourself and they don't actually take care of themselves or put themselves as a priority, there's a little bit of a backlash for them because it's uncomfortable for them just to
Yes,
witness you doing what they actually need to be doing for themselves.
absolutely. Every time. That's true.
Yep. Yep. Well, okay. So my last question, I guess, is how can people find you? So if people want to follow along your journey or get to know you, where should they
Yeah.
find you?
Well, I'm old, so I love Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, Kelly Mabry, KELLYMABRY. I'm also on Instagram. If anyone has a question, because I like to help other women through this journey, because I've been through it. My mom has been through it. My dad and my stepmom has been through it. So I have 3 different perspectives to kind of look at where you can end up.
Amazing. Well, I will definitely include those in the show notes as well. But thank you for coming today and sharing your story. It was a pleasure to get to know you.
I love talking with you. Thank you so much for the invite.
Absolutely. So, whether you are ready to write a book, start a new business, or just put one foot in front of the other after divorce, the very first step you must take is to find your center. Align with who you truly are. And the way to do that is to find your very own perfect balance between body, mind, and spirit. Are you ready to figure out how to do that for yourself? Then pop on over to shaunalee.com/align to gain access to my signature program. In just 45 minutes, you'll learn all you need to know to create your very own plan to find your center. Align is the program name. Find it under services at shaunalee.com.